Thank you very much for being with us, John. So you were
Thank
there in
you.
1991. You were there in 2003. Now, where do you see Iraq going?
I think Iraq is a puppet country of Iran, and I don't know how they get out of that. I think that the only victory, if I don't like the word victory, but the only good thing for the United States in that part of the world now. I mean, we have no influence in Syria. We don't have any influence really in Turkey. Certainly don't have any influence in Baghdad, and we've never had any influence since the Shah in Iran. So the only place where we could have any influence or make any gains of any type is up in Kurdish Iraq. And maybe down the road with the Sunnis, but the Sunnis don't have a leader now. The Sunnis are, their history's been destroyed, their leader's been destroyed, they've been scattered, and it's going to take years to get the Sunnis back together again. But you still have that great, the Kurdish people are different from everybody else. The Kurdish people are more pro-American than Americans are. I mean, the Kurds are more patriotic to the United States than the Americans are patriotic to the United States. And so there's a great marriage there between us and Iraqi Kurdistan. And I think we ought, if I was king, I would reach out and I would bring Iraqi Kurdistan into our fold. And then the fear is everybody says, oh, you can't do that because then Iran won't let you do it because of their Kurds. Turkey won't let you do it because of their Kurds. Syria won't because of their Kurds. The Syrian Kurds, the Turkish Kurds, the Iraqi Kurds, and the Iranian Kurds, they don't get along.
True.
And I don't see a great big Kurdistan. I just see the Kurdistan that's in Iraq, not the regional Kurdistan, because the smallest part of Kurdistan would be the Iraqi Kurdistan. The most advanced one is Iraqi Kurdistan. Why would you bring the other Kurds into your sovereignty there when they outnumber you, and you'd lose your power? So I think what we should do is we should just bring Iraqi Kurdistan into our fold and make it a protectorate, establish it as a protectorate of the United States. The United States doesn't own it. They're free people. They're their own sovereign people, but we just guarantee their protection.
One thing that the Kurds would like to see a little bit more from the United States is the Turkish attacks that happens on the Kurdish border areas.
Yeah.
United States is very, very quiet about that, almost silent about it.
Yeah, well, they are silent about it. Yeah.
Why?
I don't know. You have to ask the State Department that. I would suppose it's because the Turks are still a NATO ally, and I would suppose it's because what the Turks say is the only reason they go there is it's against the PKK. It's not against Iraqi Kurdistan or anything like that, but it's fighting the PKK. And in the United States, the PKK is a terrorist organization also.
Right.
So I think that's probably all that rolled up in one, and it begins to get too difficult.
Right.
Diplomatically.
One other thing that we just had the parliamentary election in Iraq. The militia groups or the political parties that were allied with the militia groups, they've lost big numbers in terms of votes. But still, Shiites are the majority, and they most likely will form the next government. The election, not the militias not winning all those numbers. Is that something that you think the United States will capitalize on or welcome? I'm just curious about your thoughts.
I think the United States would be overwhelmingly happy because of that. I don't think they'll capitalize on it because I don't think they know how. Be frank with you, okay?
One last question. Syria. You mentioned Syria, and the Kurds in Syria there's a lot of progress in the Kurdish region with the help of the United States. But then there's always this looming threat that the United States will withdraw like Afghanistan any minute, just pack and leave.
Well, they withdrew on the Kurds about 4 years ago or 5 years ago now in
Do you
Syria.
think the United States should stay in Syria?
Absolutely, I thought we should have. Absolutely. Well, for a lot of reasons. When you think about that, there's nothing to lose by supporting the Kurds. I mean, they're not a terrorist organization. They're not on a jihadist war. They're just people that want to be their own entity and have their own privacy and have their own economy and that type of thing. Number two, it gives us positioning in that country. It gives us status. Now when you come to the table to talk about Syria, the only people who can come to the table to talk about Syria is Assad, the Iranians, the Turks, and the Russians. There's no American vote at the table. It's just stupid to pull out. Very stupid to pull out like we did.
I wanted to ask a question about the sovereign protectorate. Do you think there's any real pragmatic chance for that, or any form of Kurdish autonomy, or the dream of independence is once over and we shouldn't even be thinking about it as Kurds?
Oh, I don't think you should ever give up the dream of independence. You know, I think you should continue to do that. And I think there will be another opportunities for that. Not soon, but I think there will be. And I think there should be. But I don't think that, I don't see Kurdish independence as a big Kurdistan. I think that's too hard. I think Kurdish independence is probably the entity that right now that we call Iraqi Kurdistan, the 3 provinces. And I think that's comfortable, that's doable. I think the way you do that is you make them a U.S. protectorate. You guard them from Baghdad. You guard them from the Iranians, from the Turks, and everybody else. You let them develop their economy. You know, Kurds are great businessmen. You know, look at all your companies in Kurdistan. Look at all the Kurdish companies. You don't have that down in Arab Iraq because they don't know how to run businesses. The government did all that. But you've always had this individual spirit in Kurdistan, which is even stronger now than it was in the past. So you got oil there. No telling what incredible resources you have in the mountains. I mean, those mountains have to be full of resources. You have the valleys are rich for agriculture. The problem right now is you don't have a sector that capitalizes on the agricultural potential of Kurdistan. Now next time you go to Erbil, walk down to the market, not the market, walk down to the shopping center and walk through the food store, the food market, and look at everything in there that comes from milk. Everything in there all comes from Turkey, or it comes from Iran. Not one damn thing comes from Kurdistan. You could have great dairies, you know. Look at the pomegranates that rot on the ground. I go buy pomegranate seeds down here in Publix, and I pay $10 for a little tiny thing of pomegranate. Look at all the pomegranates that rot on the ground. The tomatoes that rot on the ground. The watermelons that you have. All that stuff, if you had cold storage, you raise that, you could have a great export of agricultural goods. So all that has to be developed. Now I know that Masroor Barzani is working on that now. I know he has a good vision of what the future economy ought to be for Kurdistan, and he knows that oil won't go on forever. So they got to have something else to fall back on. I think agriculture is one of the places he's looking at and should.
Thank you very much, General.
Thank you. Appreciate you coming.